Here's something I just wanted to point out before we move on. It says, well, Daniel says in verse 37, God has given you a kingdom. And this is the fascinating thing, because Nebuchadnezzar does not worship the Hebrew God. He probably worships Bel-Marduk and other Babylonian gods, and yet God is using him. The Bible calls him a servant on occasion, and it makes you wonder, how many times do we give ourselves credit for what goes on in our lives, our accomplishments, what we've been permitted to do in life? And I think we're all going to find out one day that God permitted that. He really was still driving. So God allowed Nebuchadnezzar to have this kingdom, and in part because his own people, the Hebrew nation, had gone astray and needed a bit of a corrective to get them back on track. And so God allowed Nebuchadnezzar to rise to this peak, and he's completely ignorant of the fact that it's Daniel's God who gave this to him.
And Scripture calls Nebuchadnezzar, God calls him his golden cup, and he uses a heavy hand against Jerusalem. But Nebuchadnezzar is a proud man. He's a proud king, and I guess it would be hard not to be if you had that kind of power and that kind of kingdom. That Daniel chapter 1 through 4 really it's a battle between two kings. It's a battle between two creators. You have God, who is the creator of all things, and then you have Nebuchadnezzar. And the pinnacle of all this is Daniel chapter 4.
Right.
As Nebuchadnezzar is walking out, he's looking out, and he looks at all this glory and splendor and gold and all this stuff, and he says, "Look at what I have built."
Right.
And it's interesting to me that at the end of all of that, in Daniel chapter 4, verse 37, this is where Nebuchadnezzar ends up when it's all said and done. "Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all of whose works are truth and his ways justice, and those who walk in pride he is able to put down." And of course, he just got done from 7 years of being basically a wild beast, eating grass out there. And so God is using all of this not only to tell us what's going to happen in the future, but also to save this king. And it's incredible that God even looks at kings themselves and says, you know what, I'm going to influence them too.
Wow. Yeah, and I guess that removes all the temptation to have a we and they attitude as Christians. It's not us versus the world. They're all God's children, and he's working with people that may not know him formally yet.
That's right.
May be in a relationship with God.
Absolutely.